for defamation. Now, Johnny and Amber are together in a courtroom in Virginia, sharing the intimate details of their lives. Today, Johnny Depp took the stand.
I have taken these substances over the years, on and off, to numb. Misheard had come to my trailer, and we kissed. I saw my mother,
Tonight, we take a closer look at Johnny's story of his life, his career, and his broken relationship with Amber Heard. I'm Vinnie Politan. Great to have you with us tonight here on Closing Arguments. And for those of you who know me, know I've been covering big trials around the nation for decades now. What we experienced today on your front row seat to justice was a rare moment. This does not happen, folks. A-list celebrities don't end up on a witness stand in a courtroom talking about the intimate details of their lives. I mean, the last super A-lister I can remember was Bill Cosby, and not in the case, the criminal case he was convicted of. There were no cameras in that courtroom. Talking about decades ago in a civil case. There have been people put on trial like Michael Jackson, O.J. Simpson. They didn't testify. We didn't see it. We didn't experience it. So what happened today was a very rare moment. Johnny Depp taking the stand to tell his story, and it's about this broken relationship with Amber Heard and what was happening behind closed doors. He's trying to clear his name. She has accused him of domestic abuse. He says that's all a lie. So today he took the witness stand. And when you take the witness stand, this is not one of those Hollywood sit-down interviews like a Barbara Walters interview. No, this is not Barbara Walters asking you questions. These are lawyers. Your lawyers are going to be friendly. The other side, not so much. And you've got to get into details, things that are very uncomfortable. You don't have a public relations person who is talking, say, listen, he can't talk about this or he can't talk about that. Those aren't the rules. Once you get up on the witness stand, and swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth. You've got to answer the questions. You've got to tell the whole truth up there. Regardless of what the question is, you can't avoid it. You can't say, oh, I don't want to talk about it. You have to talk about it. You have to answer it. And you have to be honest. Because if you're not honest on that witness stand, the jury can figure it out. They are watching every move. They're watching your body language. They're listening to your answers, and they've listened to all the other evidence as well. So when you get up there, you better tell the whole truth. Now, for Johnny Depp, don't forget, don't lose sight about what this case is about, okay? He is suing Amber Heard, and he wants the jury, number one, and I think the public, number two, and all of Hollywood, number three, to understand what was happening in his relationship. Because as we sit here right now, the story basically is that Amber Heard was the victim of domestic violence. So he's got to get up on that witness stand and make her the villain in all of this. That's the goal. Because what he is saying is that she lied about it. She made up stories and accused him of something so horrific that has destroyed his career, according to Johnny Depp and his legal team. So the only way that he wins this trial and perhaps wins public approval and starts winning back those big blockbuster roles with those huge paydays is to paint Amber Heard as a villain. And he's got to come out on the other end as some sort of a hero, someone you can feel sorry for, someone who was a victim of her, both through the defamation, the alleged defamation, the lies, and two, he's alleging that she was actually abusing him. So today, Johnny Depp took the stand, and right out of the box, made it very clear with a big fat denial that he ever abused Amber Heard. Take a listen.
About 6 years ago, Misheard made some quite heinous and disturbing, brought these disturbing criminal acts against me that were not based in any species of truth. It was a complete shock that it just didn't need to go in that direction, as nothing of the kind had ever happened, though the relationship, there were arguments and things of that nature, but never did I myself reach the point of striking Misheard in any way, nor have I ever struck any woman in my life.
One thing that really struck me there, he's referring to his ex-spouse as Misheard. Really interesting. We're going to get into all of this. I want to bring in Court TV legal correspondent Chanley Painter right now. She is in Fairfax County, Virginia, outside of the courthouse. I describe this as an extremely rare moment. I mean, things like this happen, you know, maybe once a decade or so, where you've got someone of this stature who ends up in a courtroom having to reveal details within his life, intimate details of his life. Chanley, set the scene for us. What was it like inside that courtroom today?
Well, I can speak from sitting on the third row, Vinny. I mean, the gallery full of Johnny Depp fans, as you very well know, listening intently, obsequious in their attentiveness to every word he was saying. They would audibly react to little chuckles, or when he would smile, or when he would glance in their direction. They were following along. You could feel the love for Johnny Depp from the gallery. My eyes were on the jury, and I didn't see the same connections from this jury, which surprised me because they reacted to Johnny Depp as they have reacted to every other witness that has taken the stand so far in this case. No overt facial expressions, occasional notes, poker faces, looking down, looking at Johnny Depp, looking at the gallery when the gallery would react. There were a couple of moments where there was someone who sneezed from the gallery and Johnny Depp paused and said, "Bless you," and there was that moment. Really, none of the jurors cracked a smile even at that moment, Vinny, which was pretty amazing to watch. I will say at the beginning of the day, there was one moment when the jury first entered this morning, before Johnny Depp took the stand, where a female juror who sits on the front row did smile and nod at Depp, and of course he nodded back at her, which I had not seen before. So that's what it was like in the courtroom. And I don't know if you've seen this, but I've never seen a witness who can just talk as long as he wants to, answering a question. Some of these answers, Vinny, lasted up to 10 minutes. I started timing them as he would just go on and on. It was the Johnny Depp show inside that courtroom this afternoon.
It really was. And, you know, he's got an interesting way of speaking. He referenced that. If you've seen him in interviews on talk shows, I mean, he kind of speaks the same way. So that's kind of who he is. But you mentioned the jury, quite different reaction from the gallery, but they are quite different, right? The gallery, predominantly women, this jury, young men.
That's right. In fact, we lost another young man on the jury. Well, the first young man, we lost a juror yesterday to a health reason. But as I re-entered the courtroom for lunch for Johnny Depp's testimony, I noticed we were missing a juror. The court has not announced it, but we were able to confirm that one of the young men sitting in the back row was dismissed as one of the alternates. So now we're down to 9 jurors. That's 6 men, 3 women. And Vinnie, you may remember this young man. He was one that really didn't seem... he seemed disengaged throughout the whole process. Not sure what the issue was or why he was let go, but we did lose one of those young men on the jury panel. But still majority men, still majority young. And again, one of those young men takes constant notes the entire time. Most of the other men on the panel just sit there and listen and watch Johnny Depp.
All right, I want to bring in our other guests. Stay with us, Chanley. Joining us tonight in River Edge, New Jersey, family law attorney Janelle Weinstein. No relation to that other Hollywood guy, but we did work together in the Bergen County Courthouse years ago. Great to see you, Janelle. Also with us in Los Angeles, California, forensic psychiatrist, trial expert, witness, and columnist, Dr. Carol Lieberman. Great to have you both here. Let me start with you, Janelle. This is the ultimate he said, she said. She hasn't said anything yet, but she will. So this is an important moment for Johnny Depp. What's your first impression of Johnny Depp telling his story? Is it a story that is easy to follow? Is it a story that is interesting? Is it a story that seems truthful, persuasive?
Well, I think what's really interesting, right, it's direct testimony. So he's telling a story, and I find it interesting that there aren't a lot of questions. They're letting him go. But he is a storyteller. He's an actor, and he's able to be rehearsed and remember his lines. I'm not saying he's not being genuine, but many people that testify are new to it and they haven't been interviewed before. There's been a lot of preparation here, you can tell from his testimony, but I think he is trying to come across genuine, depending on what camp you're in, if you're a fan or not, how that will be interpreted by the jury. But I do think he is somewhat relatable as he's talking, in the sense that he's trying to give emotion. But I do find it interesting because we know this isn't the first time. We know there's been depositions that he's given testimony to. And he's got, you know, and he's an actor. So at the end of the day, I think that the jury's able to follow him. I think his attorneys are keeping him on track on what they want to get out on his direct testimony. But there's a lot more to go. It's going to be interesting to see how he continues to hold up.
Dr. Carol Lieberman, I want you to take a look at a moment today when Johnny Depp was talking about his mother, and they spent some time on his upbringing. So I want to talk about the impact of his mother on his life, but also this moment in the courtroom. Let's watch.
One afternoon, I woke up. I'd fallen asleep, and I woke up and walked out into the living room, and I saw my mother, very feebly, and like almost, it was like a slow motion crawl. If I could stand up, I could show you just what I saw. Do you mind?
No, you can stand up.
Thank you. I saw my mother, you know, in that mode. So instantly, I knew that something was dreadfully wrong, and there's drool coming out of her mouth. And as I was about to run and call, the front door busted open, and my uncle and 2 paramedics came in and threw on the gurney and whisked her out of the house to get her to the hospital to pump her stomach. She had swallowed a multitude of pills to try to take herself out, to try to commit suicide.
Dr. Carol Lieberman, your thoughts about the impact, the relationship of Johnny Depp and his mother and the impact that it's had on his life, on who he is and where he is right now inside this courtroom.
I think it's had a tremendous impact. You know, at the beginning of his testimony today, it was kind of a heart-stopping moment because he was talking really slowly and he couldn't find words and he couldn't make sentences, and it was hard to figure out whether this was because he was nervous or because he was going to act or because he didn't know what he was going to say, or did he take. It even seemed like maybe he had taken some pills, but anyhow, then he started flowing in a more consistent kind of way. But that just showed what I think it really was the emotion. He knew he was about to tell the story of his life. And the story that he just told about his mother, that came after his having told about all her physical abuse and emotional abuse. And he said that the emotional abuse was worse. And he talked about his father taking it, and the reason why his mother tried to commit suicide was because when he was 15, his father left. So, both of his parents, I mean, he talked about seeing his father take his mother's brutality, just all the things that she did to him as well. So yes, I had said at the beginning that this case is about Johnny Depp having married his mother. That, in other words, Amber Heard was abusive, just like his mother.
Dr. Carol Lieberman, Janelle Weinstein staying with us. When we come back, we're going to dive a little deeper into Johnny Depp and Amber Heard's relationship. Ultimately, that's what this case is about. A lot was revealed today, including when they first met one another and shared that first kiss.
Download RoboKiller today.
How did your experiences observing your parents as a child affect your approach to your relationship with Misheard?
Well, in the beginning of my relationship with Misheard, there was, from what I recall and what I remember, she was it was as if she was too good to be true.
Takes him a while to get the words out. It was like that all day long. But one thing that's clear is he's describing the beginning of this relationship. I mean, they got married, so we know that they were in love. At least that's what he was saying today on the witness stand. It fell apart, but let's take a listen. Here's Johnny Depp talking about the first time he met her, because it was a movie that he was making, and they were trying to cast who was going to be his love interest in the movie, and then he met her for the first time.
She came to my office. I took one look at her and I thought, yep, that's the Chenault that Hunter wants. That's the one. I thought, yeah, she could definitely kill me. That's what Hunter wants.
That really stuck with it. She could kill me. Wow. All right. Powerful moments, right? We're getting into this entire relationship, and they got into the beginning of it today, for sure. Let's bring in a special guest joining us tonight by phone in Los Angeles, California. Senior editor for Deadline Hollywood, breaking a lot of news on this case. Dominic Patton is with us. Dominic, thanks so much for joining us. I wanted to get first your initial reaction to watching Johnny Depp on the stand today, your thoughts about his demeanor, the way he was telling his story.
Well, I think you really encapsulated it right there, my friend, when you said, God, it takes a long time for him to get the words out. Johnny Depp was on the stand for 3 hours today, covered a lot of ground, but a lot of it felt like it could have been done a lot more succinctly. And as other people have mentioned, no one ever seemed to say to him, hey, you know, do we have to spend 10 minutes answering what's pretty much a yes or no question? But clearly the aim here, from looking at him from his childhood to talking about the abusive relationship he had with his mother, his father leaving, and elements of how he got into drugs. He talked about it was his mother's quote-unquote nerve pills that began his use of drugs at 11 years old, and then moving further ahead into his career, which he basically says he kind of stumbled upon through the help of Nicolas Cage, because he was really a struggling musician who came to Hollywood to rock and roll. All of which, at least up until the point where we start meeting the movie star Johnny Depp, was, I believe, an attempt to take, after almost a week of hearing about private jets and private security and big homes and private doctors, et cetera, was an attempt by Johnny Depp's team to make him relatable to that jury in Fairfax County, Virginia, to make him seem like just a nice, regular guy from Kentucky who had a hard life, as many people had, and is just trying to do the right thing for his kids, which he has said is the whole reason why he is doing this $50 million defamation case against his former wife. The question is, as he then progressed more into talking about his career and his relationship with Amber Heard, as that clip you just showed there where he mentioned Hunter, well, that's a reference to the famous gonzo journalist Hunter S. Thompson, and he's talking about his friendship like that. He was actually doing his voice. I was getting texts from people as it was happening saying, why is he doing a Hunter S. Thompson impression? And he continued doing it for quite a while. That, I think, is now taking him out of that realm of relatability. And that could be a very, very tricky place for this legal team to be.
Dominic, I thought one of the most interesting moments where he talked about that first kiss with Amber Heard. Let's show the folks at home in case they missed it today. Again, this is Johnny Depp describing that first kiss with Amber Heard.
We didn't really have much interaction until there was a scene where I'm taking a shower, and then she comes into the room and she opens the shower, and we kiss. And that moment was yeah, it felt like something. It felt like something that I shouldn't be feeling, because she had her wife, and even though it was a scene, and she had her wife, and I had Vanessa and kiddies, and yeah.
Only in Hollywood, the first kiss, he's in the shower, the film's rolling, unbelievable. But Dominic, give us a little more context here. He mentioned there at the end, I'm feeling something that I shouldn't be feeling. She's got a wife, I've got Vanessa and the kiddies. Where are they in their lives at this moment where they're kissing on film with him in the shower?
Well, this is about 2011. So well into Johnny's superstardom career with, I believe at this point, probably about the third Pirates of the Caribbean film, first one coming out in 2003. But Rum Diary was a passion project for him. And as has been seen in some of the clips you've shown earlier today, he was intent on getting the perfect casting. But this was clearly the beginning of something. What I find interesting here is he is clearly soft pedaling it, but clearly with him and his legal team are trying to show her as the aggressor. She came to him. She approached him after the on-screen kiss. He was pulling back like, no, we shouldn't do this. So very clearly you're seeing yet again this portrait of Amber Heard as, the perpetrator, which is what he has called her in court filings, saying that he is the victim of domestic abuse, not her, and that she is lying, as he said frequently today. So I think you're seeing a long-term strategy being played here. I think that Johnny Depp's testimony today was one of the most outstanding performances of a long career. The problem is whether or not that jury, and your own correspondents have talked about it, whether or not they can get past their stone-faced silence looking at him and see him as the person his team want him to see it, which is a nice guy who got caught up in a big life and met a woman who did him wrong. It's a country music song, but it might not actually work out as a legal victory for him.
So, Dominic, as you look at Johnny Depp and Amber Heard, it's a very volatile relationship that falls apart seemingly very quickly. But the other picture that was really painted today is that Amber Heard is with Johnny, and all of a sudden, like, all her friends and family are moving into his penthouses and his homes.
Well, that is true, but let's also remember some of the testimony from last week, where we also saw that even before Amber Heard came into his life, when he was in his marriage with Vanessa Paradis, or not an actual marriage, but basically a civic union, and their two kids, he had a lot of his friends, the so-called entourage, to quote that famous HBO show from a few years back, including his painter friend who lives in an apartment among that penthouse complex of sorts, rent-free, et cetera, et cetera. So it seems like this is kind of Johnny Depp's largesse, his court, so to speak, including his wife's family and friends in this. The question, again, that comes out of this is, how do you play that? Do you play that as his generosity taken advantage of, or was this just his way of doing things? He liked to keep the family, he liked to keep the friends around him, and the quickest and easiest way to do that was to provide them all with homes, cars, and fun. That is, again, on cross-examination, we might learn a lot more about that, because certainly cross-examination so far, as we've seen the Depp team presenting their case, cross-examination by Heard's team has been pretty eviscerating so far.
Yeah, they were aggressive today, going after the sound technician. I know that for sure.
Oh, yeah. I mean, ultimately, that ended, as you saw, with a series of, I don't knows, I never saw that, I can't recall. It was like watching Oliver North.
Dominic Patton, senior editor, Deadline Hollywood. They're breaking tons of news on all this. Dominic, thanks so much.
Thank you, sir.
All right, when we come back, we talk about Johnny Depp, but you've also been seeing, in both screens, you're seeing Amber Heard as well. We're going to talk about Amber Heard's reaction today, or is it really a lack of reaction today? What does it mean? How will it play in that courtroom? We'll talk about it next.
What did you like about Misheard when you first started your romantic relationship?
She seemed to be. She seemed to be the. She seemed to be the perfect partner from the beginning of our relationship. At that time, for a good year and a half, she was wonderful, and then things just started to change, or things started to reveal themselves. That's, I think, is a better way to put it.
I'll be honest, I'm having a hard time reading Amber Heard's reaction, lack of reaction inside the courtroom. Let's bring in Court TV legal correspondent Chanley Painter, who's live in Fairfax County, Virginia tonight outside the courthouse, was inside the courtroom today. I'm looking at Amber Heard. What's going on with Amber Heard? Any sort of reaction from her? Where is she mentally inside that courtroom?
It's difficult to tell. You know, I'm in there from the very beginning of the day, Vinny, and before the jury, before Johnny Depp enters, before the judge enters, she's the first one in the room. And of course, she comes in with the different hairstyles, so everyone in the gallery is like, oh, whoa, she's wearing a ponytail. Oh, you know, they murmur about her, and then it goes silent. But I'm watching her, and she's smiling this morning. She's talking to her lawyers. She's jovial seeming at counsel table until Johnny Depp enters, and she kind of changes her persona, and then the judge enters, and then she has that expression virtually the entire time today that I'm watching her, especially during Johnny Depp's testimony. Now, our Court TV sources close to her told me that this is tough for her to watch Johnny Depp's case unfold, Vinny, as he brings witnesses, as he testifies. But they say she is strong and relieved that this trial is finally happening after years of buildup. So maybe that's a little bit of an insight to what she's thinking and feeling.
All right, let's take a look at some more testimony, but I want everyone to focus on Amber Heard, because then we're going to bring back in our guests to get their take on this. But watch Amber Heard as Johnny Depp is testifying.
When I would come home from work, I would come in the house or the hotel, and she would sit me down on the couch and give me a glass of wine and take my boots off, set them to the side, and I'd never experienced anything like that in my life. I just never thought I just never experienced that before. And it became a regular thing that she did, this kind of routine. And I remember one night I came home from work, and I think she was on the phone or something, or busy. She was doing something, and so I sat down on the couch and I took my boots off, and suddenly Miss Heard approached with this look on her face and she just said, "What did you just do? What did you do?" I said, "What do you mean?" "You took your boots off." I said, "Yeah, yes, I did. You were busy, you know." No, that's my job. That's what I do. You don't do that. I do that." "Okay, all right then." And then she said, "Let me get you a glass of wine." And she brought me the glass of wine. But I did take pause, of course, at the fact that she was visibly shaken or upset that I had broken her rules of routine.
Let's bring back in our guest, family law attorney Janelle Weinstein, forensic psychiatrist, trial expert, witness, columnist, Dr. Carol Lieberman. Dr. Lieberman, What are your thoughts about Amber Heard's reaction, lack of reaction, however you want to describe it, inside the courtroom today as she listened to Johnny Depp?
Well, there were two distinct kinds of reactions. Earlier in the day, when he was telling the most intimate, painful details of his childhood, his mother, his father, the abuse, and so on, she was looking at him in a way that was softer, sort of taking into consideration how like as if she had never seen him be this vulnerable before. I think he was incredibly authentic and vulnerable and gave really great testimony. But then what was interesting was he was going on for a very long time about his childhood, and then all of a sudden, her attorneys objected to something. It was right when he was going to talk about what he found out for why his father left after all these years of his being abused, of their all being abused. And for some, Amber's attorneys objected and stood up and broke this train, broke the mood. The mood was very much sympathy towards Johnny Depp. And I think that's why I don't know if they picked that spot for a particular reason, but they wanted to change it and get off this, everybody, it's almost like you wanted to go there and give him a hug. I mean, I was surprised to hear that the young man, maybe it's because they were, trying to look just like stoic or whatever, but you felt really sorry for him. And then they changed, and when they started going into his career and so on, she changed. The whole mood changed in the court, and she got colder. And when he was talking about her, I mean, granted, he has been talking about her in a more pleasant way than one might have expected, and more than she might have expected. But that whole thing about her not wanting him to take off his own boots and all that, that's because it goes back to her not wanting to be abandoned, her fear of abandonment. If he starts taking off his own boots and doing things for himself, he's not going to need her as much anymore. She wanted him to depend upon her.
Janelle Weinstein, family law attorney. I cover a lot of criminal cases, right? Family law is a whole different world. It's so much more personal. What are your thoughts about Amber Heard, her reaction to this very personal trial, this very personal testimony that we're listening to? What's it like when you have a client in there and they've got to air in public these intimate details of their lives?
Well, I think the difference here is they're in front of the jury, and she's been coached to have a certain presentation in front of the jury because all eyes are on her and she knows it. So she's being very methodical, I think, as she's listening. Again, she's an actress as well, so it helps to be able to have that discipline. In the cases that I see that we don't have juries, people are very raw and they're there and they're reacting. She's been instructed not to do that, and clearly she's not. I watch her as everybody else does, and I find it fascinating that they are putting all this out for the public to see. And we know that Johnny Depp's motivation, as you said, is not just for the jury, but for this court of public opinion and rehabbing his reputation. And for her, that's on the line as well. So right now, she knows she's going to have her shot at some point in this trial, but she does not want to give anything up to the jury that may go against her.
Yeah, Dr. Carol Lieberman, let me ask you about that moment. I mean, there's nothing coming from her at certain moments of all this. Does a jury want to see you maybe smile for a second? Does a jury want to see you feel something? Like, I understand you get advice from your counsel. You don't want to show anything because it could go really south one way or the other. But to me, it's very like this. It's almost, as you said, cold and detached from something that is so raw, so real, and so personal.
Yes, I think because she's sitting there in that without any expression for the majority of it, because or at least the last half, it does kind of go along with what Johnny's attorneys are going to present in terms of her potentially being the aggressor. And yes, she did. I mean, according to what he said today, she was the one who came to his trailer, after they had been finishing for the day on the set and so on. And it did really seem like she was the pursuer. And now with her coldness, when he was saying all these really revealing his pain, I think that could go against her. She did seem softer certainly than she was the other half, but it's hard to listen to somebody talk about all that and not have any kind of compassion. So it goes along with her being able to be abusive. It makes it more real that yes, indeed, she might have been the abusive one.
Yeah, I'm still feeling, right now, I was in the courtroom last week. I'm not in the courtroom, but I can feel the tension and in this relationship. And she's going to testify as well at some point, and we'll see if there's a change there. But wow. Janelle Weinstein, Dr. Carol Lieberman, thank you so much for helping us out tonight.
Thank you.
This stuff is tough to read, and we're in foreign land here. This is not a criminal case, it's civil. It's really a family law case, even though it's a civil case, Janelle, so we appreciate your time. Dr. Carol Lieberman, we'll see you again as well. When we come back, we're going to go back to Chanley Painter outside the courthouse because there was a little bit of tension outside of the courthouse today as well, and Chanley has all those details. Do not go anywhere.
pride myself on honesty. I pride myself on truth. Truth is the only thing I'm interested in. Other lies will get you nowhere, but lies build upon lies and build upon lies. It's too much to cover. I'm obsessed with the truth, and so today is the first opportunity that I've been able to speak about this case.
And I think that's what this case is all about. I mean, whether he wins or loses, I think it's about him telling his side of the story, trying to rehab, his reputation. Anyhow, let's go back out to the courthouse. Court TV legal correspondent Chanley Painter is there. Chanley, big day, and everyone knew Johnny Depp was going to take the stand today. Some extra folks at the courthouse?
Right, more media outside the courthouse again, and supporters, some supporting Amber Heard, some, of course, Johnny Depp, to the point that tension seemed to rise a little bit outside. What was new is this young group of college-age students out front of the courthouse. They had made T-shirts showing their support of Johnny Depp. They had signs they were holding, and I even have one of the T-shirts right here, Vinny, show you. They gave me one. They were giving them out. They made for Pirates of the Caribbean. You see Captain Jack Sparrow says, "I'm innocent, savvy?" So using a lot of those lines. But I did catch up with them as far as why they support Johnny Depp over Amber Heard. Let's watch. What is it about the evidence or what you've heard that makes you believe him over her?
He can take some of this. I guess it's just his past relationships with his ex-wives. He's never done anything to either of them, and I'm pretty sure they testified in the original case that he never did any of that. And it also is just kind of how much it's affected Johnny. They booted him from the Pirates series and all of that, and that's a sore spot. But I don't know. It just kind of sucks to see him have all this downfall from this, and then there's actual evidence, or they would suggest that maybe he didn't do all of that, and that Amber actually was the one that did a lot of it. So I don't know. It's just kind of interesting to see it be a girl that's the abuser this time around, possibly. Yeah.
Vinny, they went on to tell me if the jury disagrees with them, that wouldn't change their opinion about Johnny Depp. And those fans, of course, swarmed into the courthouse today. As I arrived early this morning, the line stretching down the hallway to the elevator to get inside that courtroom, and they stayed all day because of Johnny Depp.
And young like the jury. That's a significant fact here. Now, I understand there was also a little tension and maybe a clash between some supporters there today.
Right. As I was meeting these college students, there was an Amber Heard supporter who started yelling at these students for what was on their signs. Now, the signs depicted, I'm sure you've watched the Pirates of the Caribbean movie, as has everyone, the Kraken, this huge sea monster in the movie that does the bidding of Davy Jones, and he destroys, ships and whatnot. So they're comparing the Kraken to Amber Heard, saying Amber Heard should be eaten by the Kraken and other Pirates of the Caribbean type words. Well, let's just take a listen.
You just want to put people away in the monsters, huh?
You're saying that they're giving death threats?
Yeah, we can back up a little bit
if
you want us to walk away from
that thing. What does the monster do? The monster eats her.
Leave these kids alone.
Really? Are they kids?
Yes.
Yeah.
How old are you?
Well, I'm 20, but
I'm 19. 20 years old. You're an adult.
And how old are you? Because you're acting like a child right now.
Yeah. Why are you yelling? We're not trying to talk to you.
This went on and on for some time. Finally, the Amber Heard supporter walked away and discontent about what they were saying. She was calling it a death threat to Amber Heard, and of course the kids were saying, no, this is all in good fun, and we're just a fan of the movies.
Yeah, I don't think they were making death threats. We're out of time in 5 seconds. How did Johnny Depp look at the end of the day today?
He looked chipper. He had a coffee at the mid-afternoon recess, Vinnie, that really helped him, and looked great to me as he walked out and left the courthouse today.
All right, Chanley Painter at the courthouse. Johnny Depp will continue to testify tomorrow. Chanley will be in the courtroom listening to all of it, reporting for us. Thanks so much. When we come back, we'll bring in our legal think tank.
ac.edu.
In Fairfax County, Virginia, a rare moment as an A-list celebrity takes the stand inside a courtroom to talk about the most intimate details of his life.
I have taken these substances over the years, on and off, to numb.
Johnny Depp testifying today, trying to prove that his ex, Amber Heard, lied when she accused him of domestic violence.
Never did I myself reach the point of striking Misheard in any way, nor have I ever struck any woman.
Tonight, we have all the big moments and reaction from inside the courtroom as we break down what happened today in Johnny Depp versus Amber Heard. And on the docket, the doomsday couple back in court as Lori and Chad Daybell get ready for the first big trial of 2023. We have the details.
Your Honor, she intends to remain silent. I'll ask the court to enter a not guilty pleas for her and set the matter for trial.
Plus, your reaction to Johnny Depp's testimony. Buckle your seatbelts. This hour of closing arguments starts right now. I'm Vinnie Politan. Great to have you with us tonight here on Closing Arguments. A big day. Johnny Depp took the stand. I haven't seen a moment like this in a long, long time. And it's not just A-list celebrity in a courtroom. It's A-list celebrity on the witness stand and talking about things that are very personal, talking about his life, talking about his relationship. And from my perspective, what I saw today was a guy who was likable. Likable. And to me, we talked about this before the trial began. I think that's an important aspect of this case because it's going to be his story versus her story. Are you going to believe one or the other? Are you going to believe something in the middle? Well, to believe someone, you have to like them, first of all. So I thought Johnny Depp did a good job on the stand, number one, controlling the courtroom and taking his time speaking, but really coming across, you know, a guy who's got, you know, $200 million plus and has been living this extravagant, wild life as one of the highest paid actors in all of Hollywood, one of the most famous actors in the world, came across as being a little more real, you know, displaying his vulnerabilities on the stand. And I think that will go a long way. But ultimately, when you break down this case, which is a defamation case, it's really about this relationship and trying to figure out exactly what happened, what went wrong. And, you know, this jury is young. And I think that is an important factor in all of this because I don't know if the jury has their own life experiences to call upon to relate to a relationship. I don't know how many of them have been in serious relationships. Some of them look like they're in their 20s, like more than a majority of them look like they're in their 20s. So I don't know if they've been married or had that relationship or had that relationship with a breakup. So, because these are issues that Johnny Depp is talking about on the witness stand that some people might be able to relate to and say, oh yeah, I was with someone like that. Oh, I get it. I know what's happening in this relationship. I've seen it before with my friends, whatever. So to me, listening to Johnny Depp describe his life with Amber, how they met, how they fell in love, the things they would do, and then how things started to break apart, to me is ultimately what this case is about. And does it have the ring of truth? And it did. We didn't get into the violence today yet, but we got into the relationship. And a lot of this, from my perspective, right, without cross-examination and without hearing her story, to me, sounds credible out of the box. Let's take a listen.
What did you like about Misheard when you first started your romantic relationship?
She seemed to be. She seemed to be the. She seemed to be the perfect partner, in a sense, in my head for me, because she, as I said, she seemed to be very knowledgeable about old obscure blues music that I listened to and really liked. She was literate. She was sweet, funny, nice, all those things, you know. and she was, and from the beginning of our relationship at that time, for a good year and a half, she was wonderful, and then things just started to change, or things started to reveal themselves. That's, I think, is a better way to put it.
You mentioned earlier in your testimony that Misheard would take off your boots when you would get home from work. What other types of behaviors did you observe in Misheard early in the relationship?
Little things that you would kind of, it would just, you'd question in the back of your mind, you know, if she wanted to go to bed, I'd say, oh, well, I can't sleep, you know, right now. And rather than go and just lay in a bed and stare at the ceiling, I would say, you know, I'll just watch, I'll be out here watching TV or hanging out. And that was just not acceptable. Just not acceptable. It would stir up some rather unusual reactions from her. I didn't understand why I, as a 50-something-year-old man, was not allowed to go to sleep when I wanted to, as opposed to when she wanted to. It started out with little things like that. And again, they just, they just, I suppose like anything, if they're allowed to continue, then they are allowed to grow. They're allowed to blossom.
That's what I was talking about. You know, little things like that. Can you imagine? Like, if you're thinking about the glamorous life of this Hollywood couple, you would never think, like, wow, they've got problems talking about, like, when you should go to bed. And I like, no, you can't stay downstairs and watch. Wait, to me, this was like, wow. But it has a ring of truth to it, right? Because you can relate to maybe your own situation. I'm not relating it to my situation. I go to bed whenever I want. And by the way, when I come home, I was watching the testimony, right? I go upstairs, my wife is watching it too. And it was right after the little boot story, and she looked right at me and she said, no. Don't even think I'm taking your shoes off when you come home from work. So, but these are all things, like real people now relating this, but can the jury relate to all of this? I'm wondering, because they're very young. I can't express to you how young this jury is. Let me bring in my think tank. They have some experience. I'm not saying they're old. I'm the oldest one here, but they have a lot of more life experience than this jury does. Joining us tonight in Atlanta, Georgia, criminal defense attorney, former federal prosecutor, law professor at Texas Southern University, Michael Sterling is with us. In Seattle, Washington, trial attorney Ann Bremner, and in West Palm Beach, Florida, former police lieutenant, trial attorney Rick King. So, what do you think of this, Michael? He's describing these little things, right? That you wouldn't think someone with, with all the money and the glamour of their lives, that they're getting into little spats about who's taking off his boots when he gets home and who's staying up to watch TV. I mean, these are things that regular folks sometimes might squabble about.
Yeah, Vinny, it reminds you that at the end of the day, even the most famous of celebrities, even the biggest of stars, even the best actors that we see on the screen are just regular people who have to go home the same as we all do. And it's sort of being crystallized, right, in a way that we don't get a chance to see all of the time. So we can say it, but we're really being able to see it. And America is watching court TV. They're being able to relate a little bit. Like, yeah, me and my wife, we have little arguments about this or that, or little small things, little spats about this or that. So I think it's sort of being crystallized. And like you said, it's very detailed. So it's very specific, which has the ring of truth probably for jurors, right? The more you kind of get into this detail, the jurors are like, that sounds believable. That didn't sound like something you would just make up that I couldn't go to sleep when I wanted to. It sounds like something that's really kind of believable.
Yeah, Ann Bremner, the picture that's being painted by Johnny Depp on the stand is that he married a much younger woman, but she is in control and trying to micromanage things. That was the picture I got. And, there are relationships out there like that. I've heard complaints from friends and people I've run into talking about, oh, yeah, my husband or my wife makes me do this, or da-da-da-da. She's got all these rules. Seemed like Amber Heard may have had some rules, if you believe Johnny Depp.
Well, yeah, and and I agree with you, Vinny, like I always do. But the fact that he was like an everyman today really, I think, resonated. I think with a lot of people, and I don't know if we'll vote with the jury, but I think so. He really looked at them a lot. But she started from the very beginning, seducing him in the shower. Remember, he's in the shower, they're working, and she comes in and kisses him. And it was kind of a dance, not a dance, I don't know what you call it, but she led. And she controlled him every step of the way. And then basically things changed, as he said, and things became a nightmare. She was wonderful, he said. I mean, she was perfect. She was the perfect partner. You could see her kind of preen up a little bit when he was talking about how great she was. But then he said it just completely changed. And he ends up in a courtroom 6 years later with his whole life upside down. I really thought, on balance, he did so much better than I thought he would. I was pretty captivated by him today, and I believe him.
I think everybody was glued watching this. Obviously, it's up to the jury. But, Rick, I want you to listen to this part of his testimony, because this really jumped out to me as well, because a lot of people are commenting just on the way he speaks, but he acknowledged that early on in his testimony. Let's listen.
Confidence. I can do virtually anything playing a character. I can become the character in my work, and that character may be able to spit out 100 words a minute. But me, myself, Johnny, I cannot.
Yeah, Johnny speaks like I type, which is like I type with two fingers, and that's how he's speaking. What do you think about the way in which he delivers all these stories and his testimony?
So for me, Vinny, it was the humanization of Johnny Depp that I particularly was captivated with. I love the cadence that he had, and I don't know if that's a playing cadence. I don't know if that's something that...
I think that's the way he is. If you watch some of his interviews with people like Ellen, he's the same way.
It very well may be, but for me, the humanization of him as a person and him talking about how she was the perfect partner and how he thought she was everything, and the little stories that he told, all of those things for me results in a vision or image of Johnny Depp that I never, I'm the Pirates of the Caribbean, whatever, you know what I mean? But now you see him as a real person, as a human being, and and I agree with Ann in the sense that in the very beginning, when asked about it, what he felt about her, I thought that he was trying to choke back some emotion in an effort to get it out. Now, was that Johnny Depp, the character actor, or was that Johnny Depp being human and having those? I can't tell you, but I can tell you that for me it worked, and I really was captivated by his testimony today. I thought it was real. I thought it was realistic, and I believed him.
Yeah, Michael, and I thought it was important for him to talk about playing a character versus being Johnny, because we've seen him play so many characters, sometimes fast-talking, energetic, and he's a different person when he's just Johnny.
Yeah, absolutely, Vinny, and that's what the defense is going to go to, right? They're going to try to explain to the juror that, if you believed him, if you thought he was something, just remember this guy's a trained actor, not only just a trained actor, but probably one of the greatest actors of this generation, right? You know the defense is going to go there. And so the plaintiff had to get ahead of that, had to explain, yes, I can act, I can do all of these things, but as myself, I can't do that. I have to talk at a deliberate pace the way I normally speak. So you know they had to get ahead of it, because cross-examination, as we know, Vinnie, is one of the greatest engines invented to bring forth the truth, as Wigmore's evidence points out. And so the defense, that's where the defense is going, at least in part.
Let's listen to more of his testimony. Here he is talking about his mom, because his mom, a huge influence on his life, whether it's for the positive or negative, depending upon what you're looking at. A lot of it's negative, but let's take a listen.
Go get the nerve pills, and I'd bring her the nerve pill. She'd take it, and you know, after a few years, you start to notice, well, you start to think about nerve pills. And then she seemed to calm down after she took those nerve pills. So when I was 11 years old, I wanted to calm down, and I didn't know how to. So I'd bring my mom her nerve pill, I would walk away, and I would take one myself to escape caring so much, feeling so much, to escape the chaotic nature of what we were living through. So that was the beginning when I realized that nerve pills calm the nerves.
So Ann Bremner, this is a big issue for Johnny Depp, because part of the argument that the defense will make is that, you know, he gets in these drug and alcohol fueled states, blacks out, gets violent. That's when all of this is happening. So now he's dealing with, on direct, dealing with his use of drugs and when it all started. It goes back to his childhood, which he described as very painful.
Well, yeah, and it's so important for his lawyers to get out ahead of this, because he'll be portrayed as a monster, you know, and on cross and also in Heard's case. He's sympathetic. I mean, he's basically saying, you know, I came through this naturally, an abusive childhood and everything else. And he compared himself, I'm sure you heard, to his relationship to basically Lauren Bacall and Humphrey Bogart, Slim and Steve. Those were the nicknames they had for each other. Like, he was kind of this older man that he wasn't really worthy in a lot of ways, that she's this beautiful specimen that was perfect. And so that's part of it too, is like that he's had such kind of a degenerate life in a lot of ways because of his childhood, that he came into paradise in a ways with Amber Heard, and it became a hell on earth. And so he's basically coming out in a way saying, I own this. You know, yes, I've been an addict. Yes, I've been an alcoholic. These are all things that I've been, but I didn't abuse her, and what she said was a lie.
All right, it seems like we're about halfway through direct today by the end of the day, but cross-examination around the corner. When we come back, let's talk about that cross-examination and what it may look like, because I think we got a little bit of a sneak preview today when the defense was cross-examining his sound technician. I mean, going after the sound technician, I can't imagine what they're going to try to do to Johnny Depp. Next.
for a meal and you come out and there's 30 guys out there, it can be a little overwhelming. It's not something, I think I said it before, it's not something that it's not something that I've ever gotten used to, and it's something that I hope I never get used to.
Johnny Depp on the stand today talking about what it's like being a star. And from his testimony today, it really kicked in after the Pirates of the Caribbean began, after that first movie. He was a star before that, but then it just went up to another level. And he talked about the impact on his life, on his family, and how things sort of changed after that part of his life. Now, Johnny Depp on the stand on direct examination. At some point, they're going to finish that direct examination, and then it'll be time for cross. And today, we got a real, I think, a sneak preview of the way that cross may go when the defense cross-examined Johnny Depp's sound technician. This is the guy he wants there for all of his movies, a good friend of his for 20 years or so. But he was attacked. Take a look.
I think you testified that Mr. Depp was he occasionally late a lot to the set?
I don't recall. I mean, he was late, yes.
There were days he didn't show up at all, weren't there?
Could have been, I don't recall.
And there were days that he didn't show up for 6-7 hours, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And in fact, he wasn't showing up before Amber ever got to Australia, isn't that correct?
I don't know that.
Do you recall him going on a binge with Marilyn Manson for a few days?
Objection, lack of foundation.
Do you don't recall that? I'm sorry, do you recall?
No, I don't recall.
You don't recall one way or the other, or you just...
No, I didn't visit Johnny when we were in Australia, so I don't know.
Okay, so you don't know...
He had a house, I had a condominium in town.
So you don't know what was causing Johnny to be late or whether he was taking a lot of alcohol and drugs?
No.
Is that fair to say?
Yes.
Okay.
And they were going after him for the types of hotels he would stay in, how Johnny wrote him into his contract, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But it was rapid fire. It was classic rapid fire, leading questions. It was, you know, intense cross-examination. Let's bring back in our think tank, Michael Sterling, Ann Bremner, Rick King back with us. Rick, what do you expect the cross-examination of Johnny Depp to be like? Is it going to be rapid fire? Is it going to be slow and drawn out? How do you expect that they'll go after Johnny? Will they let him talk? Right now, his answers are averaging anywhere between 3 to 10 minutes.
They're going to have to try to control the cadence of it. Johnny Depp's going to want to go slow and answer methodically, long, drawn-out answers. They're going to want yes or no answers to their questions. Typically, is how you expect cross to be. Michael credited Wigmore. I would have credited Posner and Dodd. And that's in that particular type of strategy where you break it out into chapters and the things that you want to talk about. You want to talk about his drug use. You want to talk about his alcohol. You want to talk about his lateness. You want to talk about his volatile outbursts on the set, kicking doors, things like that. You want to segment it and talk about those particular things leading to your theme that Johnny Depp is an abuser. And I think what you'll end up seeing is more questions just coming rapid fire to try to keep him into the cadence. Because if you let him to just go ahead and talk for the next, for 6 minutes per question, you're not going to accomplish your goal.
Ann Bremner, how do you think this cross is going to go?
I was going to quote Irving Younger. Remember, be brief, be brilliant, be seated. But I've got my cross-examination hat here. It's my good friend Neil Rockhind. I can't get it over my hair, but this is killer cross-examination. He's half Rottweiler and half man, and he's been on the national airwaves on trials. And he had a great quote on this, and he said, basically, if you're going to aim at Johnny Depp in your cross-examination and really fire like this, like a Rottweiler, then you better make sure your aim is true and correct and direct, because he's a star.
Let's listen to more Johnny Depp, Michael, and then I'm going to ask you, how do you think they're going to how are they going to address this issue on the cross-examination of Johnny Depp, and where are they going to go with it? Let's listen.
Been no abuse of substances on film sets. There have been there's been no moments where I would have been considered out of control. Never. In fact, it's not been mentioned. I'm sure they don't want to mention it, but I remember that because when I was with Misheard and her friends, and we were all drinking wine, and I smoking marijuana. They used to tease me because of what they said was a ludicrous tolerance, because I never appeared loaded or high.
All right, Michael, how is this going to play out on cross-examination? His drug use, his admitted high tolerance, insane high tolerance for drugs and alcohol?
Yeah, Vinny, I think that, we have to remember that there are depositions, there are interrogatories, there are documents that have been produced in this case. And so what you're probably going to see from the defense is a methodical use of any previous statements he's made, along with anything that's been produced, whether it's a nurse treating him for opioid use, whether it's individuals who, or his own testimony that's previously talked about his drug and alcohol use. I think what you will see is the defense methodically use previous testimony, previous incidents, previous documentation or reported history of, his drug use to demonstrate that, he's got this problem that, and what happens when you use drugs? Sometimes you forget what happened, right? Sometimes you don't remember. You think you were in control, but you weren't actually in control. And so you may see a little bit of that from the defense as well.
All right, that could begin tomorrow, could begin Thursday. It depends how long the answers are tomorrow, because Chanley was timing them. She said one of the answers was 10 minutes. He was asked a question, the answer was over 10 minutes later, and I think it was when the judge said, and cut. I made that last part up. Okay, when we come back, Think Tank staying with us. We got more from Fairfax County, Virginia, and big news tonight in Idaho. The doomsday mom with new glasses makes an appearance in court for the first time in a long time. We've got the details next.
Johnny from Copperfit.
It's been 6 years of trying times. It's very strange when one day you're Cinderella, so to speak, and then in 0.6 seconds you're Quasimodo.
Johnny Depp testifying today. We're going to have more of his testimony coming up in a little bit. And they're really summarizing, I think, why he's in court. He believes he's seen like Quasimodo because of what Amber Heard said. He claims it's a lie. He's suing her for defamation and trying to tell his story, which he's doing on that witness stand. Meanwhile, on the docket tonight, we have some big news out of Idaho. Lori Vallow Daybell, the so-called doomsday cult mom, has been deemed competent to stand trial. She's finally back inside of a courtroom. It happened today at her arraignment. Take a look.
At this time then, I'm going to go back through the charges and ask how you plead as to each charge. Before I take that plea then, do you have any questions for the court or anything you need to discuss with your attorneys?
Your Honor, she intends to remain silent. I'll ask the court to enter and not guilty pleas for her and set the matter for trial.
Very well, Mr. Archibald, then that is her right to remain silent. The court, upon entry of that, will enter a not guilty plea as it relates to all of the counts alleged in the indictment against the defendant.
Okay, so now going forward, there's one big issue that has to be decided, which is where is this trial going to be? The state wants it to be in eastern Idaho, in Fremont County. Here's part of the argument of what they made as to why the trial should stay there. They say it's more economical to try the case in the county of origin. That is where they were killed and buried. This is where the trial should be. Meanwhile, Chad's attorney, Chad Daybell's attorney, arguing that Mr. Daybell is entitled to a fair and impartial trial. That means when the jury is sequestered, they aren't subjected to unnecessary media or protest. This case is not about turning 16 to 18 jurors into prisoners. The seriousness of this case calls for the court to do everything they can to make this impartial. The trial must take place in Ada County, which is Boise, Idaho. The state says get the jurors from the other side of the state and bring them to Fremont County, let them stay there until the end of the trial, while Chad's attorney saying, no, let's go to Boise, as is Lori's defense, who is saying the jury should be selected from Ada County and the case should be tried there. If the state is so worried about money, the remedy is simple: don't seek the death penalty. Oh, but they are. It's a death penalty case, folks, and it's on our docket. Right now, though, 2 different trial dates for Chad and Lori Daybell, which is kind of strange because the cases haven't been severed yet, but take a look. You've got one trial date for Chad Daybell and one for Lori Daybell. Okay, we don't have that, but I will tell you. January 9th, 2023 for Chad, but October 22nd October of 2022 for Lori. But I've got to think at some point those dates are going to be the same, but we'll stay on top of it for you. All right. When we come back, folks, we're going to talk more about Johnny Depp. And on the way out, I want you to hear a little more from Johnny Depp.
I'd probably been in the industry 30 plus years, 35 years. Never had any problems, anything like that. And I had met many people over the years, many of the people, and had the opportunity to talk to those people and to even give advice to these people. And I'm not. My goal is the truth. My goal is the truth. Because it killed me that people that I had spoken with, that I had met with over the years, who maybe were in a not such a great position and they needed advice, and I gave them the best advice I could. All I could think of was that those people would think that I was a fraud and that I had lied to them.
Cat parents.
So I was always a very private person. So for me to come up here and stand before you, or sit before you all, and spill the truth is quite exposing. And it's unfortunate that it's not only exposing for myself. It's exposing for my family. It's exposing for Misheard. It's exposing for. It's it never had to go in this direction, and so I can't say that I'm embarrassed because I know that I'm doing the right thing.
Johnny Depp explained to the jury why he's doing what he's doing with this lawsuit and this testimony today. Posted on social media and asked you your reaction to what you saw today inside that courtroom from Johnny Depp. We begin with our 13th juror comment of the day, coming from Sue Z. Not Susie, but Susie. Must be horrible. He's such a private person behind the characters he plays to have to speak like this. Well done, Johnny. Rick King, do you agree with well done, Johnny?
Absolutely. I think I'm telling you that his testimony to me today was very believable. I thought it was captivating. And, and I'm sure all of us have had that time in our career where someone is putting out the details of their intimate personal life in front of, people sitting in the galley or people on television. And that's just, it's not easy. And it is, and just him telling about his drug use, his sordid life, and all these things that have happened out for public consumption now as a very private person. I mean, it just must be devastating. I mean, it's just difficult. And I feel for him.
Liz tonight, not sure what to make of his very hesitant way of speaking, not exactly a stutter. Frankly, it seems contrived, and I am a Johnny supporter. And Bremner, Liz, Johnny supporter, not liking his delivery, thinking that he's doing this delivery purposefully.
Very well done, Vinnie. And speaking of Vinnie, when I taught trial ad for the National Institute of Trial Ad, we actually used My Cousin Vinnie movie to show lawyers, to really make things simple in a trial and connect with jurors, right? And so, I mean, slow it down, talk to them. Slow, for sure, but I don't know that the jury's going to see it as contrived. They're going to get every word, and they're probably hanging on every word.
Gemma tonight, people saying he's talking strange need to go and watch interviews of him because he has always talked like this. He's a very shy person when he has no character to hide behind. It's like he's thinking of the right words to say to explain. He also has to be very careful what he does say when in court. Think also he has Amber right there watching him. That's another part of the dynamic in all of this, isn't it, Michael Sterling? Amber Heard is there watching him, and I'm sure the jury is watching both of them.
Yeah, that's a big dynamic. And from his testimony, obviously it seemed like, at least from what he's described, Vinnie, she was the person who sort of had the control in their relationship. And so I'm sure that if that's the way he feels and that's what he believes, there's at least some nervousness with her sort of sitting there staring directly at him, staring him down as he tries to, as he says, fight for his name, for himself and for his children.
Joshua tonight, this is an interesting one. Ready? I've been a trial lawyer for 40 years. Congratulations, Joshua. And the fact that Heard's lawyer isn't objecting is very telling. Rick, what do you think about that? I mean, there are very few objections to these very long narrative type answers.
I mean, in some ways, those long narrative type answers leave him vulnerable for that impeachment that Michael was talking about. So I think that sometimes, and for me personally, sometimes let him say what he's going to say. You know what I mean? That's just how I tend to feel about it, because let him get his words out, because I want him to stretch that rope out as long as he can so that I can catch him in that snare. I think it's strategy, and they're playing their cards the way they want to play them.
Two great teams of lawyers inside the courtroom, by the way. I mean, really good. Patricia tonight, get him off the stand. He's an embarrassment to himself. That's enough. Wow. Patricia would be a good juror for Amber Heard, not buying any. Michael, do you think the reactions will be like that, very extreme, one way or the other?
I don't think when it's all said and done it will be that way, Vinny. I think it's probably going to be a weighted, careful decision, right? You've got to decide who you believe, and there's always that jury instruction, which is pretty universal, that it only takes you believing one witness, right? No matter whether there's corroboration or whatever, if you believe a single witness's testimony, that's enough, right? And so, the question is really going to come down to who does the jury believe? Whose story was persuasive? Whose, way they characterized everything, talked about it, who had the credibility, and who did the jury believe on that stand? And I really think that's what it's going to come down to. I don't think it will be as extreme or as impassioned as Patricia describes.
Lynn, tonight, you can see the pain he endured. He sounds totally sincere and truthful to me. He's telling his life story, and I mean that's what he did in court today. I mean, he was, at the top of the first hour, I said this wasn't a Barbara Walters interview because it's just much different. However, there were parts of it where he's kind of telling his life story.
Right, and he's very vulnerable, and he's connecting, I think, in a very good way with this. I mean, it's a very hard thing to do. He compared himself to his dad, who he admired. Not his abusive mom, but his dad was someone he admired. And his dad was shy and humble. And I thought to myself, he's really saying, that's me too. And I'm telling my story. And I am a victim here, and I was for a long time.
And I think he may also be saying that Amber is my mother, the one.
Yes.
I think there's a little bit of a theme going through that case. Here's what Sue says. Why would he allow the doctor, therapist, nurses, and family to air all the bad about himself only to commit perjury in your own case? Rick, you want to handle that one? I'm not exactly sure where Sue F is going with all that, but I mean, they used in their case the doctor, the therapist, the nurses, and the family.
And actually, Vinny, neither am I, but I would say this. They're presenting their case. And if they're putting it out there, and you said yourself, there's two good teams of lawyers there. They vetted that information. They determined that it was necessary to put that out, and probably to save him from impeachment or that cross-examination of those facts on the other side. So sometimes when you're indirect, you put out all the bad facts that you have because they're coming out one way or another. And so it's easier if you take it and do it yourself rather than having the defense do it.
Yeah, you do it yourself and say, hey, it's not a big deal. I'm letting you know all this. Nothing to see here. And finally, Jill, this testimony is breaking my heart, to be honest, and explains why he was with someone like Amber Heard. He seems a lot like his father, non-violent, and I think that's the theme that they are going for here, is that to make this analogy between Johnny Depp, Amber Heard, his mom and dad, and if the jury is following along like Jill is, that is great news for Johnny Depp. Michael Sterling, Ann Bremner, Rick King, always great to have you here. Thank you so much for your insight, your valuable time, and we'll see you again very shortly. In the meantime, folks, don't forget tomorrow, another big day in the courtroom. Johnny Depp back on the stand first thing in the morning. But before we go tonight, you need to come back. I need your help next.
unlicensed everything.
Johnny Depp back on the stand tomorrow. You'll see and hear all of his testimony right here on your front row seat to justice. Now, before we go, I have a photo I need to show you. This is Milia Munoz, 14 years old, missing out of New Orleans since March 23rd. If you see Milia, please call 911, 1-800-THE-LOST, or you can call the New Orleans Police Department. Let's see if we can get Milia back home where she belongs. Thank you so much for watching tonight. I'm Vinnie Politan. Have a good night. And as always, don't forget to hug the kids.
This program is based upon a true story and contains reenactments. Portions of this program may be disturbing to audience members. Viewer discretion is advised.
Between 1985 and 1988, 18 transients, hitchhikers, and prostitutes were choked, sexually molested, and left for dead in the desert.